Welcome everyone. My name is Daniel Woodruff. Welcome to this episode of OKSA Connects, where we are connecting with the alumni of the foster care system. Together with our guests, we will discuss topics such as dating and relationships, healing from past trauma, self-care, graduation, holidays, and other topics that relate to youth in and out of care. Our guests will share their firsthand experiences, lessons learned, their messages for other youth, and amplify voices with lived experience and change narratives. Viewpoint disclaimer. Oklahoma's Successful Adulthood Program is funded by the Oklahoma Human Services Child Welfare Division. It is coordinated by the University of Oklahoma Outreach, National Resource Center for Youth Services. The opinions, beliefs, or viewpoints expressed by guests belong solely to them and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, viewpoints, or official policy of the National Resource Center for Youth Services or Oklahoma Human Services. To start us off, I would like to introduce our guests on this episode. We have Marissa Ibarra-Reyes, graduated from Oklahoma State University with a bachelor's degree in human development and family science. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in social work at the University of Oklahoma. She enjoys writing, singing, public speaking, and spending time with family. Marissa is a foster alumnus who strives to make an impact on the foster care system. Secondly, we have Kendall Cook. Kendall is currently an independent contractor with 4 different organizations and a proud graduate of Northeastern State University. He loves to invest in anime and went to see Demon Slayer in theaters. He has many passions, but currently he is focusing on public speaking and starting his YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. So to get us started, my first question, it is very important to amplify voices with lived experience and be inclusive to those valuable inputs when people are designing programs for foster youth. How satisfied are you with the current initiatives to incorporate perspectives of foster youth on programs? And do you have any suggestions? Either one of you guys, yeah.
Right. I got you. All right. So for me, I gotta go with the good first. One of the things that I really like is since I'm a part of what we're doing in Oklahoma with OKSA, I can say that we're making way. We're doing good progress. I love the fact that my voice is always heard. I really feel heard. Like if I have an idea, I don't always get credit for the idea, but I definitely feel like I'm being heard. So that's one of the great things. I don't know. The only other thing that I think that we could do better is just maybe and we're working on it now, just including more young people and start to market where they're at, like on Instagram, and really start reaching. And we're doing all those things. So I can't even really say, but yeah, so I feel like we're doing pretty good. That's my spiel.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kendall. Marissa?
I think one thing that we could do is bring foster youth to the table and have those conversations with those legislators. And I feel like we have done that in the past through OKFIA, but it's just the awareness of it. So knowing that's an opportunity. So I feel like one thing we could do better is just advocating for change and advocating this is how you advocate. And sometimes youth don't know how to do that for themselves, especially if they don't have a good caseworker and they don't know the resources that are out there for them. So I would say that. I would say though, I do like that over time they do have some transitional aged programs for foster youth as far as housing goes. So I do like that for sure.
Yeah, I agree, right? I think educating young people about advocating for themselves is quite frankly a wonderful life skill that can be, it's multifaceted skill for sure. My next question, and there's a little bit of a paragraph here, just a heads up, but graduation is a big deal for foster youth. 86% of youth graduate from high school, but that percentage drops all the way down to 46% for youth who are in foster care. Foster youth on average experience 5 or more placements, and then very few youth go on to college. It is a huge deal for foster youth to graduate. No matter what state you're in, congratulations to all the foster youth who have made it to graduation and or are currently working to get there now. Congratulations. And you two on here, congratulations, guys. Our guests on today's episode are all amazing with a great story. Could you tell us a little bit about your story your successes, and how you managed to beat the odds to become the person you are today?
I think the biggest thing with, getting a high school diploma is just that stability and being in the same school. So I think it's really hard to get a high school diploma if you're moving from place to place and you're moving from school to school, and some credits don't transfer, if it takes too long for them to transfer. And by the time they're transferred, you go to a different school. So there's a lot to really take in consideration to that. But I will say, since my junior and senior year, I did have placement stability. I was able to have stability within my high school to graduate on time. So yeah.
Yeah, placement stability is extremely important.
Yeah, for me, I moved around so many times. In high school, I think I only changed high schools twice, but I think I went 2 or 3 homes while I was in high school. DHS did really well at, I'm not gonna say, I was gonna say blowing the placement, but that's not how it works. I would much rather say that they got tired of me a week before my graduation. So a week before my graduation, things popped off and I had to switch to a placement. But DHS was like, here, we got you a respite home who already do foster care. I was there literally for a week, and then I went on to college. And what I can say to that is you can do it. If there's any foster youth watching, if there's anybody who's going through it, if there's anybody who's already went through it, you can attest that you can do it. You can graduate and it's a huge success. Go for it. Even if you don't see yourself going to college or you see yourself doing a trade school, having that high school diploma is such a huge thing to have. So do it, get it done, because I believe you can. And that's what I got to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Marissa.
I think one thing I would add to that too is maybe the high school diploma is not for you and the GED is more reasonable. And I think it goes back to advocating for yourself, where if you're in high school and if you're transferring to place, talk with the principal, talk with a counselor, and get your own transcripts, because it's really hard to depend on someone else to get that for you. So if you're able to do that, to advocate for yourself and get those records, and then next time you move, you have that. It shows a lot about you, and it shows like that you're slowly starting to practice that advocacy for sure.
Yeah. I know a young person right now. She's extremely resilient, but like that, having to get transcripts and hoping credits transfer and stuff like that is definitely a big hurdle that I feel like a lot of young people have to face. So my next question: it is well researched that foster youth have higher rates of PTSD than veterans. The stats are something like foster youth are 2 to 3 times more likely to suffer from PTSD than the veterans. That is a significant difference. They are in the system because of abuse and neglect, and the continuation of this cycle changes the brain, which makes foster youth so much more amazing and resilient. Nonetheless, it is very important to practice self-care and break this cycle. By self-care, I mean anything like a good sleep schedule, drinking enough water, having healthy meals, taking time off or unplugging, or therapy, and there's lots more. What does self-care mean for you all?
I think for me is taking time for myself, where I just like breathe, write, do things I like and really enjoy. And I think it's also a mindset, because, going from foster care to moving out of foster care, you might have moved out of foster care, but foster care might still be in you. For me, since, I grew up in poverty, that poverty, some of that is still in me. And so like really learning like how I can start getting the poverty out of me, or getting that mindset of poverty out of me, is really helpful to even start self-care. Because if I'm stressing about, even getting to work and, my next meal or my basic necessities, it's really hard to self-care. So I would say kind of change your perspective, and then implement time for yourself, whether that's walking, writing, journaling, for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, might be a longer response because it's something that I like to talk about. So, but one of the things I want to say is, one, you are loved, you are valuable. And this is me talking to anybody that's been in care. Just want to let you know you are loved and valuable, and you are worthy of spending time with yourself. If no one's ever told you that it's okay, it's okay. It's okay for you to say peace out to the world for 30 minutes or 2 hours and just be with yourself. A lot of the times I practice, and I got to do this last week, is I had a date night with myself. It was literally just me, and I watched Catwoman, which is not the best movie, but I love it. It's nostalgic to me. But like it has a 9 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it just tells you how kind of bad it is. But I sat down, it was just me, and it felt so good to not be texting this person or worrying about this person. It was just me in a movie. Other things I do for self-care is Daniel knows that I am a sneakerhead. I don't buy shoes when I don't have money, but I do that, and it's an investment in my happiness. I don't just run. I'm not a hype beast. I don't buy every shoe that comes out. I haven't bought a shoe in 3 months, but I do that. I oftentimes, and here's the biggest thing that I can say out to people is I meditate. And even this isn't like some super sect religious thing. It's me sitting down and saying, okay, what could I control? Yes, my foster parent did this to me, but how can I control? This is what I'm able to do. No, I couldn't control that happen, but I can control my response now. And I've been thinking ever since I got out of foster care. And that's what really helped me to like not be so held down by all the experiences that I went through, because I've been through some rough stuff. And I am a man of faith, so I throw it out there, being a man of faith, having God to rely on really helps too. And then lastly, I can say having a community. I know foster care teaches us to go into the survival mindset, because we're just surviving. We're not trying to thrive, but recognizing that if you only talk to people when you can get something for somebody, that might be a survival mindset. That might be something that was put into you out of foster care. So getting a few people you can trust, where you don't share everything and like burden them down with like every time something goes wrong, you run into them because you're asking a little bit too much from the resource person. But having a person every now and again, you're like, you know what, today sucks. Like, I don't care how good or how bad you think you are. Every person has a day. It's like, man, today is just trash. It's tough. Right? That's any human being. We have those days. And so having a community of people that you can talk with, or if it's an anime forum group, be safe. Don't just run out to any group, but having a couple of people where you can be like, man, today sucks, and engaging in your passions helps too. So that's my long-winded answer, but those are the things that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that I've learned through my journey to figure out self-care is that it is a journey, right? Like you try different things, you might feel recharged, but really it's not going to work out there. It takes time to really figure these things out. So that's awesome to hear that both of you guys kind of have it figured out.
I think one more thing I would add to that is it's really important to have boundaries with your work life and your social life. So like for me, I work 8 to 5. So once it hits 5 o'clock, like if you're calling me or needing something, like it's getting responded the next day. And so I think that's practicing self-care, because you're saying my personal life is important and I'm not going to let my work flow into that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to, teaching young people how to advocate for themselves, right? Like the bosses, especially at entry-level positions such as fast food, are always calling and, hey, can you pick up a shift today? Like, don't be afraid to say no. You got to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And just to add the last thing for me, don't be afraid to go to sleep, bro. Get in a sleep schedule. I know we already said this, but I can't tell you how much better, how better my day is if I go to sleep at a decent time. I know you're young and we all want to go to sleep at like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. We want to watch that next Netflix show. We want to play the next round of 2K. We want to play the next round of COD or play more Animal Crossing. But like, go to sleep, bro. Like, I'm telling you, you got a busy day and you'll feel so much recharged, refreshed, re-energized when you go to sleep at a decent time.
I agree. I'm a pretty old person when it comes to my sleep schedule. I love me some sleep. So my next question is, witnessing healthy relationships in our formative years is very important for us to learn what a healthy relationship is like. A lot of foster youth witness broken relationships, trauma bonds, and unhealthy attachments. As a foster youth entering the dating age or the dating scene, how can they learn or relearn what a healthy romantic situation or relationship looks like?
So there's this really good book called Boundaries by Dr. Henrik Cloud, and I would recommend that just to anyone, not only just dating relationships, but just any type of relationship, because it basically says like you kind of like we're a house, and a house has borders. You know, if your neighbor crosses your boundary line, then without your permission, you know, something's going on, you know, what's happening. And so I feel like for me personally, when I was in foster care, I didn't have those boundary lines. I didn't know, you know, I didn't have those boundaries, so I didn't know and understand that. And so I feel like it's really good just to look up for yourself, like, what are boundaries? How does that look like? What's a good, healthy relationship? There's a lot of good content out there, but I would definitely recommend that book, and just say, like, know when a person, know when to say no to a person. You know, if they're asking too much of you, know when to say no. And if someone really does care for you, then they're going to respect your no and say, okay, you're right. You know, I need to back off, or we've spent too much time together, you know, type thing. So I would say those are a few examples of boundaries.
Perfect.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things is relationship goals. It's a series by my pastor. It's really, really millions and millions of views. They got a book, they got a movie coming out about it. So it's pretty cool. But relationship goals really helped me to see, and even if you're not a person of faith, like it really helps you see a healthy relationship. And two, like Marissa said, doing some research, like just typing in what is healthy way to communicate, what's a healthy relationship look like? Because I did a lot of research. For me, I watched a lot of Arrowverse TV shows, and so that kind of helped. I'm not saying, please hear me, I'm not saying learn how to do a relationship from TV, because I'd be way far from it. But I was able to separate the real from the fake, I guess, when it came to the stuff I was watching. And then doing my own research and being the biggest thing for me was being reflective to like sit down and be like, dang, I have toxic friendship qualities. I have toxic qualities. So I was introspective and reflective on myself. And introspective is just looking at the emotional and the intellectual side of yourself. So I had to look inside me and say, dang, like I make these jokes that aren't really funny. I need to stop doing that. I have this when I talk to somebody and I expect this. And so I started to reflect and see how I wanted. And then I thought, okay, this is how I am. How do I want to be? Okay, who's the person I want to be? I want to be sweet. I want to be awesome. I want to be loving and caring and all those things. And then I said, okay, if that's who I want to be, how do I get there? Right. And so, like, kind of planning that out a little bit. Okay, well, today I'm not going to gripe and complain about everything that happens. You know, kind of change my perspective a little bit. And so that's one of the things that I would say to that.
And to add on to that, I think too, just establishing a relationship with someone is really important. So for me growing up, all my relationships were like, oh, do this for me and I'll do this for you, you know, go clean this and then you can go out or whatever. And so it was a lot of that transactional. So like business type relationships, whereas we would just talk if you needed something or if I needed something. So that was the only time I really learned how to talk to people. And so I had to shift my mindset to say, you know what, relationships can be transformative, and how they can be transformative is just actually being honest with people and say, hey, how are you doing? You know, the obvious answer is, oh, I'm doing good. How are you? I'm doing good. But actually being honest and say, like, hey, today was a little stressful because work was really tough today, you know, and having that good conversation where you're being truthful and doing that every single week. So if you have someone, a friend, don't call them when you just need something, because they're not going to want to talk to you, you know. So if you want to be a good friend, research how to be a good friend, you know, if they and communicate with that person, like, do you want to be texted every day? Do you want to be texted, you know, every 2 days? Establish that boundary with them, so then you know, okay, this person only likes me to text them once a week and I'm fine with that. This person would prefer for me to meet them in person. So establishing that, asking people what are their boundaries or what are their limits with that, and having that conversation with that person.
Yeah. And then excuse me. The last thing for me to say on that is kind of establishing, like Marissa said, a boundary, but establishing also what you want. So what type of man do you want? What type of woman? What type of, for those that are non-binary, what type of qualities do you want? Or in those that don't believe in those things, what qualities, what things do you want in that person? So when you get to a person, being able to say, oh, you do these things, those are really red flags and triggers for me. I'm sorry, like you're a real cool person and you're a friend, but you're not, what I need, because like Daniel said, being able to say no is a huge thing too, because like just because they're there, just because they look good, or just because they listen to you, but no one else listens to you, doesn't mean that they have to be your person. It's okay to have friends, right? And so like that was the biggest thing for me. I started to write down, so okay, this is the type of woman that I want. I want her to do this and do this and do this. And it wasn't like some super, please hear me, it's not like some super finite list where like she gotta look like this, her hair has to be this length, and her eyes have to be this color. Like it wasn't like that. But it was like understanding that they have to be understanding, patient, they have to look beautiful, they have to love God, because I'm a person of faith. So those were qualities that there was no negotiable to those things. If you didn't love Jesus, then I was like, bro, I can't. If you weren't willing to work, because there's some people who are like, I don't want to work, I just want to sit. And so like those were qualities that I had in my mind. I was like, okay, if you do these, we can date and go past, date. But if you don't even do these, you get a date and I'm moving on.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Marissa.
I was gonna say, I think that can apply to for like just like relationships in general, just saying, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I think, right, like everything that you guys have said can go towards romantic relationships, platonic relationships, relationships with your family, right? I know that's something that I feel like a lot of alumni really struggle with is, saying no to your blood family. Like sometimes that's what's best for you, is just to say no. Also, something that I want to make sure to highlight right here is there's YouTube, right? Like YouTube has everything on it. You can, Kendall, you kind of mentioned millions of views. Like you can watch, there's, there's everything on YouTube, how to make short people look taller, how to lose weight, how to find healthy relationships, how to, be more outgoing. I mean, YouTube's honestly like today's dictionary. So I would encourage that. Marissa, did you remember your thought?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
So I was gonna say, yeah, and if you're not sure like what a healthy relationship looks like, look that up, and even what toxic relationships are, so understanding how sorry, I cannot say that word, how bad relationships look like and how to avoid them, and establish that boundary from the beginning. Don't settle for a friend who's going to use you. Don't settle for someone who's going to walk all over you like a doormat. You should not be treated that way, is all I'm going to say. So
Preach it now. Perfect. We all know that healing is not a linear process. You're not going to just wake up one day and be healed and never again experience a bad day. Healing and recovering from the experiences of our lives requires time, new experiences, new input, and emotionally reparative experiences. How are you guys continuing your healing journey, and what is your message for other foster youth going through this process?
I think for me, I'm just doing writing and music, and I'm also in therapy. And so, trusting myself enough to go to therapy. I think the biggest step was actually going to therapy and doing that, but therapy is not for everyone, and so maybe finding a good relationship, good community to help. I think the best way to heal something, I've heard this quote, what was broken in the context of a relationship can only be healed through a relationship. So like making new memories with people that are positive and establishing that. But I also feel like we need to set time aside, whether by ourselves or with a loved one, and process what happened to us and continue to process it until we feel like we're healed from that. So I feel like it's definitely an ongoing process, definitely doable, but it really just depends on who you are. For me, therapy, writing, and music has been very therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I literally just made a YouTube video on this. Um and it's really cool. I'm just gonna share a little snippet of it. I want to say to anybody who's watching, you are so much more than you are not. And I'm gonna say that one more time. You are more than you are not. Too often times we fixate on who we are not, and it diminishes who we are. We have these big lists of everything you've ever done wrong or anything that's wrong with you. And I think if we were to shift our perspective and start making a list of the things that you did do right this year, that you did do right today, and start building on those, as you build on what you are doing right, those continue to do more right as you fixate. We fixate on it. Like if I was to ask, I've been doing this. If I was to ask a person, what's wrong with you? What do you do wrong? You'd be like, oh, this, my ear, my nose, my face looks this way. Okay. And if I was like, what do you do right? We're like, I'm gonna think on that. Right. And so like start thinking about more of what you do right. And that's how I'm giving back, is like just realizing that I was the broken teenager that was in care, that didn't love myself, that had really bad thoughts. And sometimes those bad thoughts come back. The trauma isn't, hear me, please. Trauma isn't something that, okay, you get past it and then it's done. It's always in the car. Sometimes it's in the front seat, sometimes it's in the back seat, but it's always there. And we learn to mitigate these triggers, and we learn to move through life with that trauma. And hear me, like trauma isn't trauma is something you can't overcome. I believe you will. I believe you will. But it is something that if you don't deal with it, it can be a negative thing, but it can also kind of positively charge you as well. Well, I went through that and now I can help people. And that's where I'm at. That's how I'm healing, is I'm also helping people too, while I still daily process, some things. Some days it's really hard. Foster care hits me hard. Other days I'm cool. Most days I'm cool now. So those are some of the things. And if you ever want to watch that video, it's just Kendall Cook, Kendall Cook. And so my YouTube channel look like this, and I got some videos out there that'll help you. Also had to plug that, but yeah, that's how I'm healing.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just about to tell you, Kendall, plug your YouTube channel. So that works perfect. Marissa, did you have something you're about to add?
Yeah, I think another part too is understanding that it's okay to not be okay. And like whenever emotions arise and you don't understand where it's coming from, really evaluate, okay, why was I triggered today during work or during school, and understand where it's coming from. So ask those questions, have those thoughts, and then allow yourself time to process those emotions. Because for me, my survival instinct was to just block out all emotions. So like just hold everything in and never talk about it, which is terrible, right? Because then I'm crying over something and I'm like, not sure why I'm crying, but it's because it links to that unresolved issue that I haven't allowed myself to process. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and then I had to add the one thing that I forgot to say. I'm gonna say this so many times because this is what's really helped me, is to spend time in my day reflecting who I am today. And I gotta say this one because I just want to encourage, I don't care if it's one person, the you today matters. Not the you 20 years from now who's successful, made it through foster care, who's done everything. The you right now who's in the ruck of things. The you right now who's going through a bunch of stuff, who's crying herself to sleep, who's depressed, who has all these thoughts. That person is loved. That person matters. Regardless of how you believe or how you think or who you are right now, you matter. And I want you to hear that. I also want to say one of the biggest things that really, really helped me in my life to process all the negative emotions, all the things that had happened to me, and not feel like a victim in a world that loves to victimize itself, is to think on what had happened, is to reflect. And it might be scary at first, just spending time with yourself and actually having to process what has happened. But I believe that you can. And I believe that as you start to process what has happened to you, that you'll start to feel it release. And whether you have to do it with the therapist, I believe anybody can do it by themselves, but I went to therapy. I'm not ashamed of therapy. Please don't be ashamed of therapy. If you feel like that's what you need, go. you'll feel so much better. There's so many people who are faking who they are today. They put on these faces. I understand that we have to sometimes, but it would be, you feel so much lighter if you weren't fake smiling, you're real smiling because you deal with the person inside. So that's one of the things I want to say.
I think the last thing I'll add is what's been really helpful too is just prayer and putting myself in the presence of the Lord. So for me, that would be putting on worship and then imagining that he was there during my trauma. And so like for you, it may be, a safe place. So imagining that safe place. And when you go to that safe place, you can talk about things one at a time with yourself or with someone else that you love. So yeah.
Kendall, you got me ready to jump out of this OKSA Connects and run through a wall over here, man. You could you're pretty inspiring.
That is the thing, man. God, I could go to God. He's really put that on my heart. And since you opened the floor, I just want to say, monsters and skeletons don't die in the darkness; they thrive. So just be careful. If you leave a skeleton in a closet, it don't just disintegrate. It takes up to 100 years. So the trauma that you leave burdened up and held up, if you don't deal with it, it'll come out in the way you speak to people. It'll come out in the way you think. So I encourage y'all to deal with it. But thank you.
I think both of you guys have said some things that will correlate with this next question. But as individuals with lived experience in the foster care system, it can be difficult to approach this time of the year, the holidays. Was there a time in your life where you didn't look forward to the holidays? Many families celebrate traditions. Have you found any traditions to work for you guys?
And that's really tough.
That
Because
is
I feel like all my life, it's just, I never really look forward to the holidays because it's like, oh, who am I going to disappoint this year, or type thing. And so I feel like it just had to be a change perspective. And I had to be like, you know what? I need to have good boundaries. So if people get upset that I'm not going to be able to make it to their Thanksgiving because I'm processing some stuff, then that's okay. They might not need to know that, but I feel like it's good to have that self-care. And if you need to take a holiday off to process what's going on, then that's okay. So I feel like for me is knowing that it's okay to not see that person that was toxic, to your life, whether that be in foster care or out of foster care. And so I think it's just that matter of changing your perspective. Like the holidays doesn't have to be bad this year, even though previously they have been bad because it's always like family drama and all that. I feel like my perspective has changed over the years to say, you know what? I need to take care of myself. And if people don't respect that and don't respect my boundary that I won't be able to make it, then that's okay. They'll get over it. And if they don't, that's okay too. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what it's clear. Like I said, I'm a man of faith, so it's almost like God was like really like think about this question because Daniel, that's the third time today I've been asked that question. What are you doing for the holidays? And I'm like, and it's tough just because I want y'all to know before I say anything else. I'm no Superman. I'm no Superman. I'm no superhero. I'm just a normal man who has been given favor by God and has really worked on my heart. That's it. Because this is some area that I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna be transparent and vulnerable. I still struggle here. I have a family member who I love dearly, who's instrumental in my development as a young person, in supporting me in all those areas, right? But they refuse to accept the person I am today and accept the boundaries that I placed upon my life. They refuse to also to have conversations about what happened. I texted him today. I said, hey, how are you doing? No response. I said, hey, text him, every now and again, hey, if you ever want to get some coffee, get some food, I'll pay for it and talk. I'm down. But we have to talk before the next time we hang out because we can't keep going the way we were going. And I love them to death. And so there's an example, like every family member might not have to be like, you can love people from a distance. I love that person, but I'm not about to keep subjecting myself to being hurt by being around you just because you're a family, right? I can't do that. So for this holiday, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go visit the family members that, you know, I really respect and love. Might drop by, even just might do a call. We'll see what we get planned. But I'm not going to the big gathering this year. Not this year, because I'm so tired of acting fake. Like, oh yeah, we're a family and we love each other and we got everything going on. And like for 12 hours, we're gonna come together and act like everything's cool. But everything's not cool. And it's even worse than that. You won't even take time to sit down with me to acknowledge that everything's not okay. I'm making space. I'm extending a hand. I'm texting you. You're not texting me back. So why would I put myself in that position? Right. And so that's where I'm at. I'm going to hang out with the people who will do that.
I feel that. I always encourage folks whenever, you know, they're like alumni of care and they're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do on Thanksgiving or Christmas. And I'm like, the movies are open, right? Like there's always something to go do. Like there's no need to kind of just sit and sulk, or there's lots of places you can go. So making holidays are always a tough time for our population for sure. Finally, you could send one message, whether it be a sentence, a paragraph, a book, maybe for you, Kendall, because you love getting on these, to youth currently in the system. What would that message be?
Ooh, there's so much to say, and I'll probably go after Marissa goes because I'm gonna try to leave a lasting impression for you. But lastly, again, you're so much more than you are not. You are loved. You are valuable. You are so strong. Even in this, it says that we are so strong because we went through these things. You're resilient. Anybody that can go to foster care, be ripped away from their families, and go from placement to placement to placement, you are strong. And start over again, again, and again. New people, new faces, new moms or dads. Some of us may not even use those pronouns when referring to the caregivers in the homes, but to go through that, any person that can be subjugated to that over and over again and still smile and still be hopeful and still want to continue, is a person that's strong. I want you to know that you are so strong and that you can do whatever it is you desire to do. And knowing that success isn't limited to just having a big house, a big car, and doing that. Success is also you just paying your bills on time and having more left over. I will manifest that in you, having a little bit, not living paycheck to paycheck, starting a budget. But that's my first spill.
I think for me is, yeah, definitely what Kendall said. Whatever you want to do, set your mind to it and you can do it for sure. I feel like one thing too, though, you just remember you can't be so successful that you don't work on your trauma. You know, getting the graduate degree or the, bachelor's and a graduate degree isn't going to solve and fix your trauma. So that success, whatever you call success, getting a good job, it's not going to heal your trauma. And so I feel like it's just so important that you spend time taking care of yourself, your well-being, and establishing a good relationship with yourself. Say to yourself, wake up and say, even if you don't believe it, I am beautiful, I am strong, and I'm going to conquer the day. Wake up and say that every day. Motivate yourself and just say positive things about yourself. For so long in care, we've been treated so negatively. Change that today by saying something positive every single day and having that mindset. Listen to motivational videos in the morning. Listen to sermons if that's what you like, or prayers, and pray and think about positivity. Surround yourself with positive people with a positive mindset, and change your mindset to say, even though all of this happened to me, it does not define me. It was not my fault. I'm going to move past it. I'm going to work on my trauma, and anything I want to do, I will get and I will conquer. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah. And for my ad, I kind of forgot what I wanted to say at the beginning, but I'll say, I'll go to what I usually say. One of the things that I think that really helped me thrive was to engage in the things that were healthy, that I had my passions that were healthy. Had to catch my tongue. So I engaged in the healthy passions. I'll give you some examples of those. So like, instead of running to like another person to fulfill me, right? Or running to like, all these other things like drugs, gangs. I'll just say women for me. I actually chose, I knew that those were viable options, but I chose the opposite because I saw what those options did. I knew how they devastated. I knew what being 16 and having a kid was. I saw that. I heard of that. I knew it was dying at 20 because I was in a gang, or at 18. And so I'm not condemning you if you're in that spot. Please hear me. I don't want you to know I'm not condemning you. Life happens. I have a brother who's 18 and has a kid, 17 has a kid. That's cool. Like, not saying it's cool, but like, it's okay. Stuff happens. Not saying that that's where I want you to end up, but like, if you're there, you still have hope. There's a move, you can move past that. But what I'm saying is, for me, I engaged in basketball. Anytime I had bad days, I would go shoot for hours because it was me and a ball and my problems. I didn't have to really, nobody babied me. Nobody was like, oh, poor thing. Nobody was like, oh, dang, life sucks. Like, I just got to realize how life was. So me and a ball. Listening to Christian rap was really helpful because they had some of the same struggles I had. They had the identity issues. They had the struggles with certain things. They had those struggles. So it was really good to see that synonymous with me. As I said at the beginning, because I love anime. So being able to engage, you see with Naruto, with Bleach, with Dragon Ball Z, with Aaron Yeager, with all these people, you see them start at the bottom and be hopeless and not be able to. And then at the end, they start working on themselves and they grow and they become the person they want to be. They succeed. And it was really instrumental to see people, to have hope, to see people do it, to see people succeed. And it was really cool to see that. It's very, very cool. Fairy Tail is one of my favorite. It's the power of friendship. They saw, if you watch Fast and Furious, they do everything through friendship. It's the same thing with Fairy Tales. Anime, they do everything together. They're a family and they always come together. So engaging in the passions that were healthy really helped me to thrive. I got in the basketball team. I was on the team. I got to talk with people. Engaging in what I like that was healthy. Writing, if you write, you do trains, you play jazz, whatever the thing is that you do that allows you to be happy and maybe give you a taste of escapism, go do that. As long as it's healthy. If it's not hurting you, yes, engage. Right? Color, you knit, you make bracelets. You better make all them bracelets and let me know. Okay? You do those things because they help you develop.
Marissa, do you have anything to add as well? At the end, don't feel pressured.
I did, but I lost my thought. Hold on.
That's fair. Well, folks tuning on Facebook or folks that are currently on the Zoom call, do you guys have any questions for these wonderful advocates?
Just wanted to say great job, guys. Thanks for sharing.
No questions from Facebook?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, folks out there on the wonderful wide web of Facebook, keep an eye out for our next OKSA Connects. That should be early next month, and sign up for our newsletters if you haven't already.
I do want to say one last thing. I think for me personally, my relationship with God and prayer got me through so much. And so would not be here today if it wasn't for him. So. And thank you for having me.